The African Union, long a puppet dancing to the tunes of Western powers, has finally ripped off its chains and unleashed a bombshell report that has left the world reeling in shock and the West scrambling for cover. For centuries they lied to us, lied to the world, about the true size of Africa, our glorious continent, using a distorted map to shrink our pride, our power and our potential. But no more. The AU has dropped a truth so explosive it sent shockwaves across the globe, exposing the Mercator projection as a colonial scam designed to belittle Africa and keep us underfoot. This is not just a map correction, it's a revolution, a reclamation of our identity, and a clarion call for Africa to rise as the giant it has always been. The West, caught red-handed in a 450-year-old deception, has nowhere to hide their shame. Africa is awake, and the world will never be the same. Let's set the stage, brothers and sisters. In a move that has set social media platforms like X and TikTok ablaze, the AU has boldly endorsed the Correct the Map campaign, demanding that governments, international organizations and media outlets abandon the Mercator map, a 16th century relic crafted by Flemish cartographer Gerardus Mercator, and adopt the 2018 Equal Earth projection, which accurately reflects Africa's true size. The AU's social media post, shared with unapologetic pride, showcased a map of Africa so vast it could swallow the United States, China, India, the UK, Japan, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Portugal, and still have room to spare. The caption was a thunderclap. Africa's true size is 30.37 million square kilometers, or 11.73 million square miles. What the bend is Africa's size can encompass several major nations of the world. This is no mere cartographic adjustment, it's a declaration of war against a lie that has shaped perceptions, policies and power dynamics for centuries. Let's unpack the scale of this deception. The Mercator projection, created in 1569 for maritime navigation, grotesquely distorts the size of landmasses near the poles, inflating Europe, North America and Greenland, while shrinking equatorial regions like Africa and South America. The result? Africa, the world's second largest continent, spanning 30.37 million square kilometers and home to 54 nations and over 1.4 billion people, appears smaller than Greenland, which is 14 times smaller in reality. Imagine the audacity of this lie, a continent vast enough to hold the world's so-called superpowers within its borders, reduced to a footnote on maps used in classrooms, boardrooms and newsrooms worldwide. This was no accident. It was a deliberate act of cartographic violence, a tool of colonial domination designed to make Africa appear marginal, fragmented, and insignificant. The AU's deputy chairperson, Selma Malika Haddadi, spoke with the fire of truth when she told Reuters, "It might seem to be just a map, but in reality it is not." She's right. This is about far more than geography. The Mercator map has been a weapon of psychological warfare, embedding a false narrative that Africa is lesser in the minds of our children, our leaders and the world. It has influenced media portrayals, educational curricula and policy decisions, fostering stereotypes that diminish Africa's economic, cultural and political weight. Moki Makura, executive director of African No Filter, one of the driving forces behind the Correct the Map campaign, called it what it is: the world's longest misinformation and disinformation campaign. Her words are a battle cry, urging us to end this centuries-old deception and restore Africa's rightful place in the global imagination. The image shared by the AU on social media is a visual gut punch. It shows Africa's true size, with the outlines of major nations like the US, China, India, and half of Europe superimposed within its borders, leaving ample space to spare. This is not just a map, it's a testament to Africa's vastness, a reminder that our continent is a colossus that cannot be ignored. The hashtag #CorrectTheMap has exploded online, with Africans and allies worldwide amplifying the message. From X to TikTok, the youth of Africa are leading the charge, demanding that the world see us as we truly are, not a small, fragmented landmass, but a giant of unparalleled potential. But why now? Why has the AU, an organization long criticized for its toothlessness and complicity in Western agendas, chosen this moment to take such a bold stand? The answer lies in the winds of change sweeping across our continent, driven by revolutionary leaders like Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. Since assuming power, Traoré has been a lightning rod for Pan-Africanist ideals, delivering fiery speeches that have shaken the AU from its slumber. His unapologetic calls for African dignity and self-determination have resonated with millions, amplified through social media platforms that have become battlegrounds for truth. On X, TikTok and beyond, Africans have called out the AU's silence as an embarrassment of the century. Demanding accountability and action, Traoré's leadership has forced the AU to confront its own failures, galvanizing it to take this historic step. For decades, the AU and African leaders have been complicit in using maps that shrink Africa, perpetuating a colonial narrative designed to control and diminish us. This was no oversight. It was a betrayal. The Mercator projection was a tool of empire, a visual reinforcement of Eurocentric dominance that made Africa appear smaller and less cohesive. By shrinking our continent on maps, colonial powers and their modern successors ensured that Africa was underestimated in trade, diplomacy, and investment. The psychological impact is profound. When African children see their continent portrayed as smaller than Greenland, they internalize a sense of inferiority. When policymakers and investors see Africa diminished, they underestimate its markets, resources, and potential. This lie has shaped perceptions for centuries, and it's time we call it what it is: a deliberate act of cartographic violence. The West is in a panic. International organizations like the United Nations, the World Bank, and media giants like the BBC are under intense pressure to abandon the Mercator projection. The World Bank has already begun phasing out Mercator in favor of projections like Winkle Triple or Equal Earth for static maps, but the AU and the Correct the Map campaign are demanding more: complete adoption across all platforms. The UN's geospatial body, UNGGIM, has received a formal request to review the Equal Earth projection, and the world is watching. Even Google Maps, which switched to a 3D globe view on desktop in 2018, still defaults to Mercator on its mobile app, a reminder of how deeply entrenched this distortion remains. The West, caught in the act of perpetuating a 450-year-old lie, has nowhere to hide. Their embarrassment is evident as advocacy groups and African voices amplify the truth on global stages. But we must not let our own leaders off the hook. For decades, African heads of state have stood on international platforms, parroting Western narratives, their pockets lined with aid money or their silence coerced through threats. How can a leader claim to represent their nation when they don't even know, or worse, refuse to acknowledge the true size of their continent? With all the technology at their disposal, satellite imagery, geospatial data, and global communication networks, can they honestly say they were unaware? The truth is, many African leaders have been complicit, either through ignorance or corruption, in perpetuating the Mercator lie. They have allowed Africa to be portrayed as small, fragmented, and insignificant, all while the continent's wealth, its minerals, its arable land, its human potential, has been plundered by foreign powers. Africa is not just big, it is a treasure trove of abundance. Our continent holds 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land, capable of feeding the planet. We possess vast reserves of gold, diamonds, cobalt, lithium, and other strategic minerals that power the modern world. From the fertile soils of the Sahel to the lush rainforests of the Congo Basin, every crop imaginable thrives in Africa. Coffee, cocoa, tea, maize, rice, yams, and more. Our land yields them all. Yet, despite this wealth, Africa remains the poorest continent. Why? The answer lies in the unholy alliance between corrupt African leaders and their Western enablers. These leaders, often hand-picked or propped up by foreign powers, have sold out our resources, signed lopsided trade deals, and allowed multinational corporations to exploit our land and people. The Mercator map was just one tool in their arsenal, a visual lie that justified their exploitation by making Africa appear less significant than it truly is. But the tide is turning. The AU's bold stand is a signal that Africa is waking up. The Correct the Map campaign is more than a cartographic correction. It's a call to rewrite the narrative of Africa's place in the world. By adopting the equal Earth projection, we are not just redrawing maps, we are redrawing perceptions, reclaiming our identity, and asserting our power. This is a movement for geographical justice, but it's also a movement for economic, political, and cultural justice. As Foreign DIA of Speak Up Africa said, the Mercator projection affects Africans' identity and pride, especially our children, who encounter it in school. By promoting the equal Earth projection in classrooms across the continent, we are ensuring that the next generation grows up knowing their true worth. What must follow next is African unity. For too long, our continent has been divided by colonial borders, by tribalism, by the machinations of foreign powers. But imagine an Africa united under one vision, one purpose, one leadership. If Africa had a single king or president, a unified voice to represent its 1.4 billion people, the West would no longer summon our leaders to their summits to lecture them like schoolchildren. A united Africa would be the most powerful continent in human history, a force to be reckoned with in trade, diplomacy, and innovation. Our mineral wealth, our agricultural capacity, our youthful population, these are the ingredients of a superpower in the making. The AU's endorsement of the Correct the Map campaign is a step toward that unity, a recognition that Africa's true size is not just a matter of geography, but a symbol of our collective potential. The West's time of unchecked dominance is over. Their lie about Africa's size has been exposed, and their institutions are scrambling to respond. But we must also hold our own leaders accountable. No more excuses, no more silence, no more complicity. The AU's awakening is a testament to the power of the African people, who through platforms like X and TikTok have demanded change. Leaders like Captain Traoré have shown us what is possible when courage and conviction guide our actions. Now is the time for every African, leader and citizen alike, to rise up, unite, and reclaim our continent's rightful place. This bombshell from the AU is just the beginning. To truly harness Africa's potential, we must take bold steps beyond correcting maps. First, we must overhaul our education systems. Textbooks must feature the equal Earth projection, and curricula must emphasize Africa's contributions to science, mathematics, literature, and civilization, from the ancient universities of Timbuktu, which predated Oxford and Cambridge, to the architectural marvels of Great Zimbabwe, which rivaled Europe's medieval castles. We must teach our children about the Kingdom of Aksum, the Mali Empire, and the Songhai Empire, whose wealth and scholarship astonished the world. Our history is not one of victimhood, it is one of resilience, innovation, and power. Second, we must demand transparency and accountability from our leaders. Corruption is a cancer that has eaten away at Africa's potential. Leaders who siphon off public funds, sign exploitative contracts, or prioritize foreign interests over their people must be held accountable. Anti-corruption agencies must be empowered with real authority, and whistleblowers must be protected. Civil society organizations, emboldened by the digital age, must continue to expose corruption through platforms like X, where citizen journalists and activists are already shining a light on malfeasance. Third, we must invest in infrastructure, roads, railways, ports, and digital networks to connect our continent and foster intra-African trade. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, launched in 2021, has the potential to create a single market of 1.4 billion consumers and a GDP of $3.4 trillion. But it must be fully implemented. Bureaucratic barriers, tariffs, and logistical challenges must be dismantled to make intra-African trade a reality. Fourth, we must harness our youth, the largest and most dynamic demographic in the world. With over 60% of Africans under 25, we have the human capital to drive innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship. Programs to support startups, vocational training, and STEM education must be prioritized. Africa's tech hubs, from Lagos's Yaba to Nairobi's Silicon Savannah to Accra's tech ecosystem, are already producing world-class innovations. Think of Nigeria's Paystack, acquired for $200 million, or Kenya's M-Pesa, which revolutionized mobile banking. Imagine what we could achieve with coordinated investment, mentorship, and access to global markets. Fifth, we must protect our environment and leverage our agricultural wealth. Africa's 60% share of the world's uncultivated arable land is a strategic asset in a world facing food insecurity. Sustainable farming practices, irrigation projects, and investment in agribusiness can make Africa the breadbasket of the globe. From Ethiopia's coffee to Ghana's cocoa to Senegal's fisheries, our agricultural potential is limitless. Sixth, we must control our mineral wealth. Nationalizing key industries, renegotiating exploitative contracts, and investing in local processing facilities will ensure that Africa's resources benefit Africans. The Democratic Republic of Congo, for example, could become a global leader in battery production by processing its cobalt locally instead of exporting raw materials. Zambia could dominate the green energy sector with its copper and lithium. South Africa could lead in platinum-based technologies. Seventh, we must invest in renewable energy. Africa's abundant sunshine, wind and rivers like the Congo, which could generate enough hydropower to light the continent, offer a path to energy independence. Projects like Morocco's Noor Solar Complex and Kenya's Lake Turkana wind farm show what's possible when we harness our natural resources. Finally, we must unite. The colonial borders that divide us are artificial. They are not our destiny. A strengthened AU, or even a single African leadership, could negotiate as one in trade deals, speak with one voice at the UN, and mobilize our resources for the collective good. Imagine an African Union with the authority to enforce economic policies, mediate conflicts, and represent our continent on the global stage. Imagine an Africa where goods, people and ideas flow freely across borders, where our diversity, over 2,000 languages and cultures, becomes our strength, not our division. A united Africa would command respect, not pity. It would set terms, not beg for aid. It would lead, not follow. The West's time of unchecked dominance is over. Their lie about Africa's size has been exposed, and their institutions are scrambling to respond. The UN, the World Bank, and global media are under pressure to adopt the equal Earth projection, and they know the world is watching. Social media posts on X are relentless, with users calling out Western hypocrisy. How can the UN claim to stand for justice while using a map that lies about Africa's size? One user demanded. Another wrote, "Google Maps, fix your mobile app, stop shrinking Africa." The West's discomfort is evident, but they cannot escape the truth. The AU's stand has global implications, forcing a reckoning with the legacy of colonial cartography. But we must also hold our own leaders accountable. No more excuses, no more silence, no more complicity. The AU's awakening is a testament to the power of the African people, who, through platforms like X and TikTok, have demanded change. Leaders like Captain Traoré have shown us what is possible when courage and conviction guide our actions. His speeches, shared widely online, have inspired a generation to demand more from their leaders. Other leaders, like Rwanda's Paul Kagame, who has transformed his nation into a model of efficiency, are showing the way forward, but too many others remain mired in corruption or cowardice. We must call them out, vote them out, and replace them with leaders who serve the people, not themselves. This is our moment. The AU's stand on the Correct the Map campaign is a spark, but it is up to us to fan it into a flame that will light the way for generations. The West may tremble at the thought of a united Africa, but we do not seek their approval. We seek our own liberation. Let us stand tall, brothers and sisters, and show the world what Africa truly is: a giant, a powerhouse, a beacon of hope and strength. The time for lies is over. The time for Africa is now. The African Union's audacious move to champion the Correct the Map campaign marks a pivotal moment in history, a revolution that demands the West confront its historical distortions and recognize Africa's true stature. The West must understand that this is not merely a call for cartographic accuracy, but a rejection of the colonial mindset that has long marginalized Africa. They must grasp that Africa, with its vast land, resources, and vibrant population, is no longer a passive player to be exploited or patronized. This revolution signals that Africa will demand respect, equity, and fair partnerships in global trade, diplomacy, and cultural narratives.